Hello, you all. By you all, I mean people I call a fan base. So, this is What If Deku was a Monster, and I'm talking about my favorite monsters from Monster Hunter. That and the ones that give me PTSD. Glavinus, I just find him cool. And by the way, this is Glavinus. So, Glavinus, Hellblade. And he essentially will be able to turn into them and use their abilities while in human form. But the strongest that it gets is when he turns them into their armor form. And then their full power form. So their secondary form. So Hell's Blade. Yeah. Hell's Blade. Freaking my head hurts. But yeah. And then Brachydios. But yeah. Oh yeah, and I should probably explain. For Glavinus, he can essentially light his tail on fire and breathe fire. For Brachydios, he has poison and explosives. So essentially, he can have mines that when are in close proximity, which is the green goo that he will lay on the ground, then proceed to implode. Well, explode. So yeah. But in human form, he can just put his arm, so like the part right here, on his like forearm, and those will become his hands. And then raging. We'll get to that. But and then Safi Jiva. Just look up what Safi Jiva looks like, because the picture won't go through here. And then, oh yeah, and that's essentially like plasma. And Safi Jiva and Zeno Jiva are essentially one and the same. But yeah. But essentially, he can control plasma. And then there's the thing that brings everyone autism. Shrieking. Frick. So Okana, Electrion. Fatalis. Sorry, I was thinking, because I'm doing my best to forget him. But yeah, the armor will essentially look like this. And there are two Fatalises, if you didn't know. Old Fatalis, which is the one that he will use. But new Fatalis, let me explain that little bit of backstory for right now, for those of you that don't play Monster Hunter. Old Fatalis, he used to be like a good and kind spirit. And anyone that had the armor equipped would have blessed days and eternal life. So essentially, that's why your hunter is alive in Monster Hunter World. But anywho, but new Fatalis, it brings along bloodlust, nightmares, terrors, and it'll slowly consume you until you are the dragon itself. And then there's Electrion. how should I put this? Electrion has fire, ice, and dragon. Dragon, we'll go with it being like a strength multiplier. And this is its armor. So, yeah. And then this will be what Deku looks like. And then this is for Velkhana. And then this will be his Palico that he summons. And then this is Ruiner no Gigante. So yeah. And then Kudala Ishvald, aka the alien. Sorry y'all, but this is gonna be a minute. We have a couple more. But yeah. And he essentially can manipulate what looks like wings on his back. Yeah, no. He can turn them into hands, arms, whatever. And so, yeah. And then there's Volhazak, the walking meth lab. He essentially will be like, he spreads miasma and poison. And this is the armor for Black Veil Volhazak. So, yeah. Ignore the female one. And this is the ship. MMA fighter my boy. But yeah. Yes, I love my choices. Anywho, let's go to what Deku looks like. Cause he is that nigga. But anywho, when Deku was born, he looks like this. And Inko and Hizashi, well, more Inko than Hizashi. You'll see why in a minute. But she asks why his hair, well, herself, why his hair's black and red. Even though hers and Hizashi's is green. And so, Deku, they just feel like this cold stare coming from him. And like the air just feels heavy. And like the area where he's at, there's like gas like leaking out of him. And then there's like ice crystals forming on the ground. And like little sparks of flame. And like his eyes turning like a bright reddish pink. And then his hands like slightly turning green or blue. And Hizashi, he gets mad and he asks her, "Were you cheating on me this entire time?" And like stuff like that. And she tries to convince him that no, she wasn't. And then she's like, "Oh, the other kid." And by others, I mean a little thing called Izumo. Haven't heard anybody call Deku's sister that now, have we? Unless someone did, tag them in the comments. Video, exact place and time. Or else I won't trust you. But anywho. Again, I'm breathing into my mic. But, yeah. And so, anywho, Deku, he goes ahead. Or, not Deku, but. Anywho, let's time skip to when Inko gets out of the hospital. Azashi, he pokes Deku with a syringe and draws blood, and Inko's like, "What are you doing that for?" He's like, "A DNA test." Throws that mug in there. Comes out as unknown DNA. And they're like, "What the fuck? What do you mean? What does it mean, unknown?" And like his blood, it evaporates. And then it then proceeds to go ahead and, how should I put this? Turn volatile and spike. And then it flies towards Deku. And just seeps back into him. But anyhow, so Deku, let's time skip to when Hazashi has finally had enough of Deku. And Inko, she doesn't really like Izuku either, because Hazashi, he's hit her a couple of times for it, and she blames it all on Deku. But they throw him in an orphanage. So niggas finna be cold. Except a shoddy. Because she's shoddy. Like, let's be honest. If you saw this coming towards you, what would you do? Me personally, I would be like, "Hey, yo, ma, let me get your number." But as we all know, I look horrible. Like, let's be honest. Fuck me. Anyhow. So, Deku. He goes ahead. And then, at this point, yeah, sorry. I'm watching Kengan Ashura, which by watching I mean rewatching. Also, when's Kengan Omega gonna get an anime? Where's season 3? So many questions. But anyhow, so Deku, he goes ahead. And like the head lady, she doesn't understand why Deku was even placed in the orphanage, because there was no reason for him to. And so she takes pity upon the boy. And so all of them, they're nice to Deku. And by nice, I mean like they're nice to him for now. For now, I say. Just for now. Anyhow, so Deku, we go ahead. Oh yeah, and by the way, only females have quirks, so he was kinda already looked down upon, but it's all boys in there, so yeah, they treat him kind, 'cause boys treat each other kind, my guy. Cough, cough, we know how to be friends. If you remember it from that one Family Guy episode. But, anyhow. So, when Deku was 4, the male orphanage got burned down by Endeavor, who was being reckless because she was on the phone with somebody as she was handling a villain and accidentally let her flames run a little loose. But she didn't care, she didn't help. Deku, at 4 years old, had all of his friends' blood right in front of his eyes. All of it. Their dead bodies. Their faces as they lied motionless on the ground. The pain that they felt. The amount of hate that he felt for that one hero was more than anyone could ever feel. And Deku, he took a bit of everyone's blood, put it in a vial, and smeared it all on the left side of his hair, creating the red. He took his scarf and bathed it in their blood, just to feel like they were near him, 'cause he felt like he had no one else. And so, after that, he left, wandering around for 2 years, living on the streets, barely surviving, barely scraping by. Until he found another orphanage. This time, he noticed it was guys and girls. The guys got treated like trash. They couldn't even see inside. They just slept in tents outside, mainly held up by sticks and leaves. For insulation, they used their clothes. They slept like rats, scurrying across the floor. Deku, he saw this and began to question this world even more. They had taken his friends away from him, people that he called his family, and his real family had gotten rid of him for being a boy and for being a bastard child. And if you don't understand the meaning of that word, bastard technically means that you aren't really the child of both of your parents, just your mom. Because she just had to let another nigga lay the pipe. Shall we put it bluntly? But, anywho. What in the world? But Deku, he goes ahead and he walks in, and then like the lady, she's like, "Oh, hello, you filth, what are you doing? Get outside." And he says, "But I'm not one of the kids that lives here. I was wondering if I could." And they're like, yeah, whatever. Just go find one of the random tents outside. There's one vacant, then you can sleep there. I'm saving this. I have to. But sorry. No, not Toriko. Excuse me? What in the world? But, essentially his clothes look like Kaneki's. Or heck, he looks like Kaneki. His quirk is petrification. Anyone he looks at, he can turn into stone, but he can judge on who it is. And Deku, he thought the tent was empty, and he was about to go in. He says, "Huh? Who are you?" Being Kaneki. And he says, I live in this tent. And you?" Because he's shy and timid, like, The first version of Kaneki, keep in mind, this isn't actual Kaneki. But Deku, he walks in. And he says, "Oh, well, I guess I'm your roommate." And he says, "Oh." And Kaneki, he's a year older than him. I'm just going to call him Kaneki for simplicity's sake. And so, Deku, he goes ahead, lays down, goes to sleep. But Kaneki, he stands watch. Because he knows that some females grab them and snatch them up to take them to the dungeon. Sorry, but he goes ahead and wakes up to see Kaneki being dragged off. And he follows them, making sure to stick to the shadows. Because even though he's 4, he roughly has control over Valhazak's mist. And that's the only one he has control over. He hasn't talked to them or anything, but he can essentially turn himself into black mist. Or like a black dust. And so, Deku, he goes ahead and... Sorry. But, he goes and decides to... Frick. I'm so tired. I don't know why, but I am. But Deku, he watches it all, and he's disgusted with them. And they take Kaneki back, and Deku, he pretends to be sleeping. And they were like, why didn't we take that one as well? And they're like, oh, it's his first day. So why not give him a little hope that this is a normal orphanage? I mean, we're obviously not a normal orphanage, you know. And she says, oh, I know. I just like to give them the image that it is. But anyhow, after they leave, Deku, he wakes up and says, so, that's what they do, huh? And Kaneki, he's surprised and he's like, huh? They drag us off and abuse us, huh? And Kaneki, he's like, you knew? He says, oh, I followed. It's one of my abilities. And they're like, and he went, what do you mean abilities? And he's like, it's like a quirk. But it's really, really useless. I can only turn myself into smoke. And it's slightly hazardous to inhale, because it'll shut down your body from the inside out. Sorry. But, anyhow. Deku, at this point, started to curse the world that we live in. But anyhow, let's get the ball rolling, shall we? Let's skip to when it's the first day of middle school. And it's an all-girls school. But the orphanage, all the other schools are taken up. So they asked that all-female school, hey, can we send this kid to you? And they're like, yeah, sure. What's the name? And they're like, he don't have one. call him whatever. And they're like, okay. But yeah. Sorry. Anyhow, sorry. But, so, Deku, he goes ahead, and he's walking, and the teacher, she says, okay, class, we have a new student. And they were like, hopefully she's cute. Maybe we can talk to her. And stuff like that. And then she says, alright, he should be arriving anytime. They should be arriving soon. And Deku, he opens the door. And all of them, they're just staring like, huh? And Deku, he's just walking. And he finds an open seat, sits there, puts his legs up on the desk, puts his hands behind his head, and takes a nap. And they're like, wait, it's a boy? And like they all start laughing. And then this girl in the corner with ash blonde hair says, yeah, at least these stupid extras are a little more worthful than him. Sorry. But, anywho. So, they say, and they know Deku's not asleep, and they say, so, what's your name, you stupid male? And he's like, and then a name pops into his head. Fatalis. Doesn't Fatalis have a meaning? And they were like, wait, doesn't that mean deadly in Latin? He's like, exactly. And they're like, so, you got a last name? And he says, Nergigante. I wonder if Nergigante has a meaning too.
Need to get your trash done.
So, let's go with dying sun god as the meaning. Yeah, we're gonna mix meanings. Alright. Yeah, sorry for that long pause though. But anywho. Deku. He says, yeah, what about it? And they were like, don't talk back to us, give us a straight answer. And he says, that's my name, so deal with it. And they're like, And Deku, he personally everyone, he's been taking all the beatings for all the other boys. And he's become cold. And Kaneki, he's dying of cancer. And there's no way to pay for treatment, so he'll die soon. And so, Deku, at this point, sorry. But, anyway. So let's skip to when he's leaving. He opens the window and they're like, huh, what are you gonna do? Take a swan dive? I mean, help the world. Get rid of you stupid males. And he just jumps out. Turns into dust. And no one sees him turn into dust. But they do see him land. And he's wearing exactly this. The kimono with the thing. And he just says, pathetic. And he just walks away. But, anyway. Deku. Sorry. But, anywho. So, Deku, at this point, arrives back. And everyone, they say, hi, little bro. Hey. Just greeting him. And he says, so, how's Kaneki? And they say, he might die, you know. Probably within a week or two. He says, damn it. Wish we could get him treatment. Then he could stay alive. Even if it just be for a little longer. And so now let's time skip 2 days. And it was the weekend, so they didn't have school on the Sunday. But yeah. Sorry. But anywho, Deku, he goes ahead and is trying to make sure that Kaneki can breathe. And Kaneki, he starts coughing up blood while Deku went to the bathroom. He hears coughing and he's like, hopefully he'll be alright. And he finishes, he goes, and he sees, and he steps in something. He's like, huh, what could that be? He pauses. And he sees it's blood. And he sees everyone else just standing there crying, some on their knees. And he walks over and he sees Kaneki dead. But he wrote a message on the bed. And he says, "It's okay, little bro. I'm fine where I am now." But anyway, Deku being Deku goes ahead and picks up his body and he says, "Come on, come help me bury him." They all go to the woods and then grab a shovel and some stones. They start digging a hole, place his body in it, wrapped in his favorite blanket. They say, "It was nice knowing you, little big bro, pal." And so sorry. Sorry. He goes ahead and sorry, places all of the dirt on him. And he says, "It's no time to cry, so stop crying." We all know that's not what he would have wanted. So come on. At this point, Deku, he feels a sharp pain in his head. And then he falls to the ground. And before passing out, everyone, they're like, hey, you alright? Come on, guys, help me get him up. He sees a monster like this. He says, hello, Izuku. Or not Izuku, he says, hello, young one. And he says, huh? What are you? He says, I am Glavenus. You can turn into me and everyone else here, and use our abilities as well. He explains the abilities of himself. Brachydios does the same. And everyone else, so on and so forth. But the only one that hasn't spoken is Fatalis. And he sees a white and black, a white dragon, and then a black and red dragon. And they're like, so what are you two doing? And they say, we're one and the same. We are of the same person. We are only each other's counterfeit. So that way, securative measures can be met. Because without darkness, there can be no light, and without no light, there can be no darkness. Peace breeds destruction. Destruction brings war. And war, over time, will bring peace. But, anywho. Wait, the devil lance. Isn't that? Yeah. That's the, yep. That's the nigga that killed him. Yeah, that match is gonna be over real quick. Anywho. He says, okay. And they say, oh, well, we just wanted to let you know that you fully unlocked all of our abilities. I mean, you already had and have all of Valhazak's down. He's like, wait, so that's why I can turn into mist and secrete my asthma? And they say, yep, that's why you can puff, puff, pass. And they were like, okay. But, anywho, he trains with all their abilities. He now has them all unlocked. Anywho. Let's skip to last day of middle school. Deku, he gets bullied, but he doesn't really care. They can hit him and stuff. And he'll just stand there like a brick wall. Won't move, won't flinch. It's like nothing affects him. Because nothing does. Because after that day, every single one of the boys lost their life to a disease. You see, the girls were slowly poisoning the guy's food. Deku, he wasn't affected. They want to know why they've been upping the poison more and more, but he doesn't die. Reason behind that is he doesn't need to eat. So he just digs a small hole, dumps all the food out into it, and then takes it back to them. And even if he did eat it, it wouldn't affect him, because his body is technically made up of poison. And so, Deku, he goes ahead and on the last day, and they were like the college applications and stuff. But anyhow,
What the hell do you keep stopping sword for? Let me explain. I don't use my fists to waste time on weaklings. Surrender now, young competitor. It is not shameful to
but
acknowledge
anyhow,
differences. Hilarious.
Deku,
Every last one of these guys is underestimating me. Don't you do it too!
they ask him, "Hey, what a stupid man like you choose to go to college?"
Too shallow. Did you think I was just gonna roll over? Well, I finally figured it out. Your movements.
And so,
Competitor. It seems as though I must reevaluate. Ha! It took you long enough. I have to cut much deeper if I want to get down. So your weapon's a slash, is that right?
he goes ahead
This will make for a nice conversion. Show me what you got. I hate to admit it. There's no way I can match this guy in terms of ability. If I let up,
Huh.
we devour.
Now I'm just thinking of what I should do. But anywho, so Deku, he says, "Oh, I'm not going to high school." And they say, "Serves you right." And he says, "Yeah, I just don't find a reason for it." And the teachers, they say, sad to say, he has the highest grades in Japan, and has the highest scores. Sorry, but anywho, so Deku, he goes ahead and says, "Alright, so that's it, right?" And like they were all just flabbergasted. But anywho, so Deku, at this point, Dang. Anywho, so deku, he decides to go ahead and at this point leave. He leaves, and he's been doing underground fights for a while now. He's mainly fighting against females. And he essentially just uses this mask. They just call him the they call him the god of martial arts. And they were like, hey, you got a couple people who want to challenge you, you know? And he's like, yeah, who? And they were like, a female professional MMA fighter. He's like, oh, alright. Which ring is she in? And they're like, 2B. And he goes over to ring 2B, and he sees this girl just stretching, talking to a couple of her friends. And they were like, and she said, dang, I didn't expect to be either for their number ones to be your boy. He's like, what's a pro do in a place like this? And she says, well, you see, I feel a little weak, so why not get my skill up fighting the strongest, you know? And he says, you may be a female, but you act more like a guy. Oh well. So you're gonna use your quirk? And she says, nah, I want it to be fair. He's like, well then you shoulda used your quirk. And she says, what do you mean shoulda? And like her entire body just then feels the shock. And she like looks behind her, and she sees that he's behind her, and he says, told ya. And she falls to the ground unconscious, and like her friends, they just say, what did you do? He says, all I did was release all of her nerves. And they were just scared of this man. Deku. He goes ahead and how should I put this? He just sits there and lets her lay down in his lap. He messes with her hair a little. He says, you're really cute, you know. And she blushes because she was pretending to be asleep for 20 minutes. But he did knock her out, though. But yeah, this is it.